Thank you and good afternoon. We are Murray Hill Academy, and here to present to you are 3 teachers and 1 assistant principal from a transfer high school in Manhattan. We believe we have a unique proposal here because what we're going to propose is something that is already being practiced in our school. So starting with our vision, for far too long, we believe that professional learning has been top-down. It seems that we all agree on this. Not only does this decline to utilize the myriad of skills, ideas, and agency that teachers are capable of, it leads to long-term systemic problems such as teacher shortages. It is time for a re-professionalization of teaching, one that focuses on trust and collaboration and teacher-owned professional learning that we are already living at Murray Hill Academy. These types of changes shift our perception of teachers from direct instructors to action researchers. Students grow best when teachers are trusted and supported by leadership focused on implementing systems based off of professional learning as prescribed in ESSA. Instead of top-down, one-size-fits-all planning policies for professional learning, individual teacher needs can be identified through teacher-owned inquiry cycles that will be detailed by my colleague, Ms. Bowe.
All right, to expand on what Mr. Chu was stating on how teachers should be action researchers leading their own data-driven inquiry, our school has implemented inquiry tasks to enhance student learning. We have 3 inquiry cycles throughout the school year, in which each cycle is about 3 months long. After reviewing baseline data with my co-teacher, we decided to focus on Common Core Standard using scientific vocabulary to manage complexity of topic. We tested strategies based on student mastery of the assessment. At the end of the cycle, we analyzed and reflected to determine if our strategies had any impact on student learning, and we still found most students were lacking evidence in their scientific analysis, which led us to change our focus standard. As a result, 77% of our students were able to meet and even exceed the standard, which was a 36% increase from our baseline data. In fact, Simon, a student with special needs, was able to go from approaching to exceeding the standard. For me as a teacher, this has pushed me to deeply reflect on the needs of my students to ensure that every student succeeds.
Ms. Bowe just described her individual experience as an action researcher. We supported each other throughout the process by using intervisitation and non-evaluative feedback. Every teacher saw student growth. We envisioned teacher leadership emerging into multi-tiered professional learning opportunities. At Murray Hill Academy, every teacher presented their findings and successes with particular strategies. This gave birth to a protocol database and videos outlining these strategies that any teacher could use based on data. We're proposing this model be expanded on a district, state, and national level, where teacher leaders would examine the strengths and weaknesses within and across districts and states to create build-by-borrowing approaches presented at conferences and virtual spaces.
So, now for the big question, how to make it happen. In order to make it happen, which we did, schools have to use ESSA funding to compensate teachers for their time. I mean, that's after school, professional development time, working at districts and state conferences, as well as participating in virtual spaces. In order to make this happen, administrators have to be trained with ESSA funding to think outside the box, to create the time and space for this to happen. And then lastly, teachers have to have time to make this happen. At Murray Hill Academy, we meet every day for 1 period, plus 2 to 3 hours a week for a total of 8 weeks during a school week to professionally collaborate. In addition, 10 out of 25 of our teachers have reduced teaching schedules. As you can see,
we're going to get lots more questions from the judges.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll let them see if they want to use some of the time to finish up with the last part. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, okay, great. And so in order for other schools and states to achieve this, ESSA funding is going to have to be used to allow for smaller class sizes and to put more educators into our schools. Like when teachers are treated like professionals, excellence happens, like we've had happen at Murray Hill Academy.
Set our clock at 3.5, if you would, so we stay on time. I like that you led with teachers leading their growth areas and using their data to figure out what they're going to do next. I think that's empowering for teachers in a way that we don't usually see in typical professional development models, where you don't have any choice about what's happening to you. So thank you for that. I would like you to tell me what didn't work as well, because I know that there was probably things that didn't work and that you've adjusted as you've gone along. So if you were giving a longer presentation about this, engage me in why things didn't work, because I like the model, but I'm sure it didn't. I'm sure not every teacher in your school loves this. So figuring out what are the characteristics of those teachers who really do thrive in this environment, and so we're teaching those characteristics as well. And then I would love to know what are some of the common challenges that have come up for learning. So what are the things that 10%, 20% of your teachers are all saying they need help with? Classroom management, I don't know what it is, but there may be some commonalities that would be helpful to share out. So thank you.
Two things stood out for me. First, that you presented it in a very research-based way, which made teaching sound like a profession. And the only people that are capable of doing this are teachers. So it felt good. And then the second thing was that you brought your principal, and that really shows buy-in. I think about with my students, we build houses with Habitat for Humanity all the time, and I tell them to go on a roof, and they look at me like, you do it. So just to see that there's value in your school, everyone's on board, you have the same vision, and you're moving in the same direction, because sometimes those roles seem like they're separated. So for you guys to come out of the gate saying we're in this together and we've worked on this together and everyone's involved would make me as a teacher be more confident in this plan.
A few quick things. I love that you started out by introducing who was there. I was like, okay, I know, I'm talking. The principal is here, so I love that. You don't need to answer this, but on the action research, I wasn't clear if you guys developed this, or this is a well-known thing that you guys are bringing to your school. So maybe just a little bit about that. And then finally, I felt there might have been a tension between when you said, how do we pay for this or something like that. Well, we did it. You did it without any ESSA money, but now you're asking for ESSA money. So just that there's a tension there that you're basically saying, well, you don't need extra money. You did it. So it's sort of explaining that.
I'll just add one quick comment. I think a lot of strengths that you provided, but I liked your term about the reprofessionalization of teaching. But I think when you talked about time, you really need to think about how you tie the reprofessionalization with redistribution of time as a part of that process. So expanding on that would be important. Great presentation, great advice.